concern as Kenya's voters shun registration for 2022 election. Parents are complaining over the debilitating school fees payment marathon that comes with the extra term. Is the government obsessed with projects at the expense of its people? What if the substance that had the potential to damage your health was found at every store near you? Good morning, my name is Sophia Macau. Welcome to Affairs from Kenya and around the world. I will be with you for the next 25 minutes. Thank you for joining me. You can join the conversation through our social media handles at Sophia Macau on Facebook and Sophia_Macau on Twitter. The hashtag is TheKanda. As of January 8, 2022, the IEBC had only reached 23% of their target to register 6 million new voters. This caused them to roll out a second phase of enhanced continuous voter registration. But even with this and other measures, the electoral body had to consciously lower its target due to concern as Kenya's voters shun registration for 2022 elections.
As a youth leader, I speak on behalf of a group of youths who have interacted with, who have had discussions with, because this is a very sensitive topic. And most of the youth, just like me, are either not registered, or if they're registered, they will not vote. They're not interested in taking part in the voting exercise, majorly because they feel like, one, they are very neglected, they are marginalized. We don't have any of our age mates or people in our age set vying for these seats. There is very poor civic education concerning matters of politics. So the ones who are well versed with this information are too angry to go vote, and the other majority are ignorant on matters election.
Mimi nisha register kuvote. Mimi ni voter, na the reason for kuregister kuvote kwa sababu nataka ku select a leader that is going to be of help to the youth na common mwananchi.
I am not registered because we've been having false leaders who've been telling us, like giving us false agendas, that they're building us roads and they are creating employment for the youth. And yet, like for the roads, for example, they are doing it at the last moment because of the elections that are like a few months to come. So I just feel like me going to vote, so it's a waste of time.
Our correspondent, Joan Mwaniki, joins us live. Do you think that the Kenyan youth are justified in their attitude towards voting?
Yes, Sophia. I think the youth's concerns about their impact on this democratic process cannot be denied. Most of them feel neglected by the same government that is now requiring their engagement.
And could the results of this report be considered a threat to the democratic process of Kenya?
Although these reports represent the views of youths and other people from specific areas, the real proof is in the low registration numbers of the voters.
Thanks so much for coming in, Joan. We hope that our leaders take note and do something to better the situation.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Back to you in studio.
It is quite a sad situation that we have there. Joining me live is an aspiring MCA, Dandora Embakasi North, Eric Muthuri, to dissect this matter further. Welcome to the show, Eric Muthuri. What can you tell us about why there was such low voter registration turnout among the youth?
Thank you, Sophie, for having me. Thank you for your concerns amongst our youth. And with the youth, the voter turnout was very minimal compared to the previous session that happened. The young people had lost their interest in politics because of the previous regime. They promised to work with the youth, which was not the case. You know, without a job, without work, one can do nothing. So realize the youth will never vote. If you're hungry, you have no job, you can't. I talk to most of the youth. They say, no, let's say Kibaki promised work. We were working. The old regime promised work, which we never hard. So without the jobs, the youth said, look at this. We voted this government, promised jobs. We have no jobs. So that was the major setback for the IEBC itself through the control of the government.
As a leader, what can the government do to make the youth more interested in politics in the future?
I wish the government could just walk to the youth, walk to the ground, and as we have always listened to the people who are elected, what they talk and what the people in the ground want, which are the major youth, the majority are the youth. You realize now with the youth, if there's no tribal-based politics, if they are represented well, if their views are listened to, then the counties, the government itself will run smoothly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us and welcome back to the show.
Happy for having me. Thank you.
It is the dream of every parent to want the best education for their child. But what happens when that education comes at such a high cost? Ever since the effects of the pandemic on education, schools have been trying to make up for lost time. And as a result, parents are complaining over the debilitating school fees payment marathon that comes with the extra term.
At a time when schools will be filled with the vibrance of students, only emptiness fills the school compound of Kitengela International School. And this is the case with many other schools.
COVID has affected the education system, both positively and negatively. When they came back, I think they came back in March there, so the calendar had to change. The academic calendar had to change, because normally we knew that one academic year was supposed to start from January to December, but now you realize that an academic year is ending in March. So it has also brought change in the academic year. Another negative change that it has brought to the education sector is if you look at these children, I think majority got lost somewhere in the middle during that period they were at home, because most of the parents were leaving the children at home and going to their jobs. Then as a parent, you don't know where the child is when you're away. So it also brought some rot in the society.
Inatu affect sisi kama wazazi kwa sababu kupata hata hiyo school fees ni shida. Unapata the moment wameenda, wakirudi wanahitaji fare, wanahitaji pocket money, shopping juu yake plus na school fees. So unapata inakuwa somehow challenging. Then upande wa chakula pia kama sahi, breakfast, lunch na supper wanahitaji na lazima wakule. So unapata inakuwa pia challenging.
Inatupeleka mbio sana, sababu tumepata term kwa mwaka zinakuwa 4, na sisi tunasomeshia shule ambazo ni private schools zinakuwa ni business za watu, na wakati term zinakaribiana hivyo, mara nyingi tumeona hakuna vile fees either imepunguzwa ati sababu mwaka mmoja umekuwa na term 4. Fees ni ile yenye tulikuwa tunalipa wakati mambo ilikuwa normal.
The pressure to provide school fees could not have come at our time, since most people are still struggling to recover what was lost in the pandemic. However, learning must go on. Clinton Mutai, reporting for TAS Media.
It is very unfortunate that a child should be left out, especially when it comes to basic needs like education. Joining me live is Tabitha Mutindi, a secondary school teacher and a master's holder in education. Welcome to the show, Tabitha. Talk to us about how Corona has affected the education system from a teacher's point of view.
Okay, Corona has affected us so much as teachers. For example, the terms in a year have become many, 4 of them, and they are too short. 2 months to finish the workload that is there for every class is not easy. So it has made us have a lot of work. Back to back, every day we are packed with a lot of work.
And are the students feeling the pressure of this extra term?
Oh yes, a lot of it. Because every teacher is geared to finishing their syllabus. So all that goes to the student, and you see it, the pressure is too much. They've been having a lot of work all the time. As a parent, that pressure is too high. 2 months you pay fees, full-term fees. Then another 2 months, and it has been a cycle since 2020. So it has been very expensive on us. It is making the time too tough. We are praying for this time to pass.
Could the government have done it in a better way, or did they do their best with what they got?
I feel the school system should have, the government could have done it better in a way that the years are not shortened. So the school years, school calendar should have remained the 3 months per term. We stretch and we keep on reducing as the time goes by, because it will affect all the students. These students will never come back to those classes. So that impact, the parent is pressured to pay fees for a short time, is also not going to help the parents much. So psychologically, the community is affected. And if the government would have let it play in a way, the years remain, the school years calendar remain the same way. A term having 3 months until we are through the corona period, it would have eased all these issues.
Thank you so much for your views and welcome back to the show. Is the government obsessed with projects at the expense of its people? We'll be back with this and more stories after the break. Through our social media handles at Sophia Macau on Facebook and Sophia_Macau on Twitter. The hashtag is #TheKanda. Projects over people. This is the paradox of our country as increased efforts are put into completing the Nairobi Expressway. With high numbers of joblessness among the youth and an under-equipped health system, our correspondent on the field, Doris Waithera, has more on this.
Beautiful green sites are seen along Mombasa Road on the newly built Nairobi Expressway. The 12.5 billion Kenyan shillings road that was set to be built in a record time of 6 months is now nearing completion.
First of all, accessibility to this business specifically has become an issue. A lot of clients have been complaining about it. Also, many businesses have closed. Small businesses, at least for us, we are on the service lane, but small businesses, most of them have migrated to other areas.
Lea hii express highway kwa saa hii kuna disadvantages mingi. Moja ikiwa vumbi imekuwa mingi, watu wengi huku wamekuwa na homa, contractor mwagi maji vile inafaa. So tungefurahia sana kama angeendelea kufanya hiyo kazi bado akimwaga maji juu ya vumbi. Secondly, U-turns za gari inalazimika kuenda mpaka chini ama kuenda mpaka karibu Syokimau ndio iweze kuingia highway, na bado hatujawekewa pali ya kuvukia bado. Mtu anatoka hapa na travel kama whole kilometer ndio vuke the other side.
Hii barabara inatupea manufaa. Customers wako wengi, hakuna vumbi, wananunua sana.
Unfortunately, there seems to be a gap between the government's agenda and its citizens' expectations. Doris Waithera reporting for TAS Media.
A government that cares for its people should ensure that basic needs are met before presenting them with projects. It doesn't make sense to say to someone who's starving that this road will help you in 5 years. Joining me live is Mr. Ben Shakaina, a businessman and political aspirant. Welcome to the show, Ben. Let's get right into it. Does the government have its citizens' best interest at heart by focusing all its funds on projects instead of solving real-time problems?
Well, the role of a government such as our own is not really creating employment or creating business. The role of the government is that one of creating an enabling environment for business, for enterprise to thrive. That enabling environment includes things like infrastructure that creates an enabling environment. For example, roads. For example, the provision of adequate power in the form of electricity and other amenities, the provision of clean water, of sewerage, and even the provision of health facilities. Those are primary requirements or duties of a government.
So in the case of Kenya, are we moving in this direction as a government and as a people?
I believe to some extent we are. When you see the roads, those of us who lived in times before the Kibaki era will easily relate to this. We quickly remember how difficult it was. In that time, I lived somewhere in Eastlands, and it would take almost 2 hours to move from Eastlands into Nairobi because of the traffic jams, the poor roads, the conditions were very difficult, and therefore business was much slower. Unlike at this time, it's easy, and as the roads are being made, the bypasses, the superhighways, opening up the country to business.
Thank you for this perspective, Ben, and welcome back to the show to discuss further on how we can be part of the solution. When you talk about addiction, you probably think of alcohol and other hard drugs. But what if the substance that had the potential to damage your health was found at every store near you? This week on Health and Fitness, we talk about the deadly effects of Coca-Cola on our health.
This week's health story was inspired by a special report story by Unreported World. It shed light on one of the poorest states in Mexico that has access to sugary drinks more than clean water. The consequences of this is the diabetes outbreak that the people have to live with. I sought to find out if we had the same problem back home.
I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2016 October, and since then I was put into insulin. That's what I use to manage my condition. I am on 2 types of insulin, long-acting and short-acting. Also, managing type 1 diabetes, we are advised to do a lot of exercises and eat less carbohydrates, foods with carbohydrates and starch. We are also advised not to take things with sugar, not to take drinks with sugar. We're not supposed to take sodas or tea with sugar because it contributes to the blood sugar levels to go higher, unless it is a matter of treating the low blood sugar levels. That is the only time when one is allowed to use drinks with sugars or sugar itself.
Welcome to the show, Fila. Talk to us about diet and nutrition. How important is someone's diet to their health?
Okay, thank you. Having or taking good diet is so important to our bodies. It can help us to avoid chronic illnesses that come about with taking bad diet, like hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, and many other chronic.
And we've currently seen that someone could be addicted to food substances that are not considered illegal. What can you say about this?
Yeah, there are some foods or even drinks that can be addictive to our bodies, like if you take them repeatedly. Some of the foods or the drinks are being manufactured with some ingredients which contain addictive substances. So a person taking it repeatedly can be addictive.
So for a person who's already caught up in the cycle of food addiction, especially fast foods, what can they do? What help do they have?
Okay, so those people can come, we counsel them about the good diets and the bad things or the negative effects that come about with taking such foods, and so they can be counseled and be educated more about having good diets, and it can help them to avoid such addictives.
Give us a parting shot. What can you advise someone on what they should eat?
So people should be so careful about the foods and drinks that they should be taking. So we consider people taking health foods that can help them not to have chronic diseases, like fruits, vegetables are good enough for our health. And also we should take balanced diet, but with amount which is considered good, not too much and not too small.
And what are some of those foods that people should avoid?
Foods to avoid foods which have addictive substances, foods with such a lot of fats and cholesterol.
Thank you so much for coming to the show and welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the conversation. I'll just read through some of your feedback. Atshoda Otieno says that I'll not be waking up to queue for leaders who don't care about us. And Atubi Karaoke says that the government does not care about its people. It's every man for himself. Omar Abdi says that it is interesting to know that food can be an addiction just like alcohol. Wow. Thank you so much for your feedback, and you can keep the conversation going on our social media platform. We have come to the end of this newsreel. Thank you for sticking with me to the end and have a lovely week ahead.